Alright, what's up, suckers? Today we're gonna have fun. I'm gonna officially teach you what to do when you have a pot that has no drainage holes. I've talked about it in the past. I've dropped suggestions of like, use rocks and find, grab rocks, basically. Rocks. And I'm sure rocks are all cool and well enough, but why? So that's what we're going to address today. So the reason that you want to use rocks, and people so prevalently suggest rocks, is that when you have a pot with no drainage and you put soil in it and you go to water your succulent, we'll use this for an instance, okay? Pretend there's a succulent in this. I'm going to fill this up with water. Now what? Where does the water go? Well, it doesn't. That's it. It stays in here. And then you get this problem. And you accidentally overwater your succulent. But if you put rocks at the bottom and you accidentally overwater your succulent, the rocks keep your soil from the bottom of the pot, which is where your water goes, and therefore you kind of create your own drainage. And then you actually don't have to water your succulents for a while. So I'm going to use a couple different instances and a couple different types of rocks. The first one I'm going to use is called Rock Filler. This I bought from Target, but I'm not sponsored by Target, so don't get excited. But literally, they're the tiniest white rocks. Tiny. And are you in or out? You're like a cat right now. So, for instance, I'm going to use this, and I'm actually going to fill my pot up, me personally, halfway. Because by the time I shake it down, it'll only be a quarter filled of the pot. So, this is essentially what you end up with, is just little tiny rocks, little tiny micro rocks at the bottom of your pot. Then, I'm going to grab one of my new pots. Again, no drainage. These are metal. I'll show you the whole setup, but these I got from my local Joann's. Also, again, not sponsored. So I'm actually going to fill this up most of, if not all the way. Pat it down really good. And then, again, nice little ring of dirt. And then I'm going to go for my next baby succulent, which I just had, I promise. Got so much it's stuck in the way. Can't get to it. Alrighty. So, we're going to start with... You're too tall. You grew since the last time I looked at you. Dang, now what? Alright, so we're going to go for the happiest baby right now, putting off a flower. It looks like it's getting ready to wither, or it's just freshly bloomed. It's one or the other, but that's who we're going to transplant. As you can see, he's beautifully root bound. Hasn't been touched for a hot minute. I apologize, sir. Going to create myself a divot for him. Going to be smart and snag my green glove. You done? Thank you. I have cows. They're not mine, but we have cows. Oh yeah, looks like the flower just freshly is starting to wither, so just fell off. Alright, and then create a nice divot for this guy where the roots are sitting right on the top of the rocks, so I'm not concerned. And then just bury him up to that point. Then grab my cute little measuring cup of water. This came with my iron. And I'm going to water him. And the cool thing about the rocks underneath is that as I add the water, even though it packs down the dirt, ta-da! Any water that seeps down will seep into the rocks, and therefore the rocks will just kind of store it until it's ready for its next water. And that is how you deal with drainage. Yeah, I planned for this, but I didn't plan for making room for this. So we're gonna put it right here, over here. Alrighty. The next type of rock that I am going to drop are giant rocks. Now, the reason I specifically picked giant rocks is because that's all that I have in my yard. If you haven't seen my back porch, that is my back porch. I live in an apartment complex that this is what they provide us instead of grass. So that's what we kind of have to deal with. It works out because it's easy enough to pick the perfect rock. Look at that. That's a nice height. It's really pretty looking. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of my pot here. Listen to it jiggle around. I'm going to fill it up with dirt and soil. Pack it around the rock, soil. And then just transplant from there. The new setup that I have is currently chilling out on this wire surrounding you. The wire's not included. But it looks like this. And it is a 3-tiered shelf. And there's 3 pots in each. That gives me 9 pots. And right now I have it chilling right around you. So I've got this rope hanging from my top balcony. And then this piece of metal is hanging out on the setup that I have for my other succulents. And so I can put junior succulents in there. But at this time, I want to make sure I put the correct layering in them. So I can't really hang it up. And my dog wants back outside, just like a cat. Inside, outside, inside, outside. Can't decide. So yeah, for another instance, I have this setup. Again, no drainage. There are rocks at the bottom, which is why they're so happy. And these are sibling plants, which is why I put them all together. So you can see a little bit of a difference even at a distance, but they are sibling plants. More like, not necessarily, don't think of siblings as like brother and sister, but more like distant cousins, distant relatives. So they exist in the same family, but they're each a different genus. So they grow very similarly too. And that's what I have at the bottom of that. And then the same as this one, this bunny, it was a mug, no drainage, obviously, otherwise your coffee would suck. And I have a rock at the bottom of that. And again, I have this cute little succulent on top. And so, don't go anywhere. That is essentially, off camera, that is essentially why often people will talk about, if you look at like succulent websites or anything that has to do with cactuses, the first thing they do, especially on Facebook, the first thing they do is they pull up a pot like this and they're like, what do I do? Do I drill in holes at the bottom? There's no drainage. Like, I'll make it, it'll die. And that's just the fact of life. It's gonna die. And well, for this instance, if you're concerned, snag a rock. Go to a play park, grab some sand. The sand basically does the same thing. Just make sure it's good sand, not bad sand. Now, the reason I say bad sand would be like it's already compacted, or essentially it's made to like resist water. So if you put water on this specific sand, it'll resist the water, and therefore your plants are just gonna kind of drown. So just double checking that we're on the same page here. Alright, so next one I'm going to do is actually this baby succulent that I got for my wedding. Got a little bit of damage. A couple of the succulents that I got, they turned inside the, it's so crunchy and dry. They turned inside of the box when I received it, so some of them were upside down. So they did get a little bit of damage, and the leaves did end up dying on me, but they look good for the wedding. Now we're gonna just fix them up a little bit. So again, inside the pot, I'm gonna snag another pot. Pot on pot action, and bury it to a point. And that's it. That is my succulent. Look how cute. And it will grow. I promise. This one has water in it. Most interesting. But the other ones on the top do not have water, so that's interesting. I'm gonna go back to my micro rocks just so I can use it up, because I've got wrong pot. Because I've got this bag. Again, was going to use it for the wedding. That's okay though. Some things happen. You plan for one thing and it doesn't work out, but everything else works out, so you realize you don't need that thing. And this was only $3, so it's not like I spent a ton of money and lost a ton of money. Oh no, I'll never get that money back. Oof, honey. Okay. Get rid of your dead leaves, that way you're not trying to... Well, you do have roots, so I'm not going to break you yet, but I am going to bury you differently. I'm going to bury you all the way to the bottom. Which means I need another pot. Okay. If you ever find a succulent like this with necrosis, you can see the kink. That's basically just cell death. And for this plant, I'm actually going to bury way past that. It also looks like it was kind of nibbled on by some insects, so that's also why we're gonna bury past that. And then I'm gonna have it lean over here in the corner. There's a little stick in here. And that's how we're gonna fix that. We're gonna kind of hide that damage under the soil, and that should essentially the tiniest amount of water. Just because I'm transplanting them, I don't want to shock them, but I do want to water them. Cleaned up my backyard and now I can hear all the flies angry. Oh, it's clean back here. What the heck? Here's my metal pot. I'm only going to do it halfway this time because clearly getting myself in trouble. Oh, look at that. There's already a rock in my soil. So I'm going to put that in the other pot. Alrighty, we're going to pull this guy out. Yeah, as you can see, some leaves died. And that's not from neglect, that's just from delivery, shipment and delivery, and not handling my succulents very well. Now I'm going to use my purple glove, because this one's really dry and I do want to crunch this without getting my fingers possibly. I'm not worried about dirt, I'm worried about splinters. That's where we're at here. Okay. Dig a little hole with my glove, put it all the way down, save the rock. Alrighty. And there we are. Cute little succulent, happy in the middle. Okay, now it's gonna go at the top. Wonderful. Now, there's a rock at the bottom of this. I'm gonna put the rock in there. Do want another rock though. One rock is cool, but two rocks is better. And I can explain why. Depending on how big around your pot is, generally speaking, when you get succulents, they start out in small pots, but when you get them into a bigger pot, you're going to have more surface area underneath to cover. And if you have a bunch, like one single rock on one side, and then you have a bunch of soil that, you know, overtake that rock, the rock is essentially obsolete because the water's still going to seep through and your soil's going to be touching the pot, the bottom of the pot, and you're just going to still end up running into, you know, drowning. So this one's going to go all the way in. This one's pretty tall, so I'm going to keep it halfway out. Need a little bit more than that. Okay, and again, happy little succulent. And I'm kind of layering them at different places because I've got essentially the same succulent several times. I'm going to keep that one for soil, and then I'll grab a new one. By the end of it, we should be in a good place to have They're coming for you, Felix. They know it was you. Alrighty. Yeah, this one seems to be a favorite with the bugs. Darn. Crunch, crunch, crunch. This one feels kind of weak, so I'm actually going to pull it off and I'm going to try to propagate that, which is going to be my next video. Propagation. So here we are. This one's pretty tall, so this pot's especially full of dirt. And again, I want it to stand straight up. And then I'm going to pack it down with water to make sure that it stays. And there we are. Another happy succulent. Okay. Yeah, this one definitely needs help. Look at that. Look at that. There's some dead leaves underneath it, but it's growing so well, and it's got baby succulents coming out of the side, and that's just super exciting. Again. Ducks. And again. Soil. And again. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Oh, look at you. Oh, there's a baby underneath the soil. That's adorable. Alrighty. Dig hole. Come over here. Grab a pot. Grab some soil. Bury the plants. Don't actually bury the plant like I'm doing. Dang it. My poor succulents. Getting dirty. Okay. I'll use my finger for this because I think it'll at least push it in place. Alrighty. Ta-da! Another happy customer. I'm going to wash it off, and I'm going to get rid of the water in the leaves. That way there's no sunburn. Alrighty. Very nice. Wunderbar. Okay. Now, I have one more, two more pots down there. Okay. That. And I have no more rocks, so that's exciting. This one is a sibling. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I want to be especially careful with this one because it is a double. Oh, now it's a single. Good. You can be used for propagation. My propagation video. Put it in there. Don't even have to add soil on the top. And just a little bit of water. And there we go. It's in there. And see, now I'm running into the problem of like, I can't get to the stuff on the bottom. Okay. It should hang just fine. The only problem is it'll be in your way. Mostly. No, actually, it's fine. Okay, cool. So, 2 more pots. Now, my next rock I'm going to use beads for this one. It's essentially the same idea. Beads just have holes in them, so it'll let the water go through better and faster. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was anticipating using these beads to use on like face masks to tighten them, and got everything together and everything ready, and I had the elastic and I pulled it out and it just didn't fit. The holes were just a hair too small for the elastic that I had, and I thought, I might be able to use it, and I didn't. So now I've just got a bunch of beads floating around my apartment, and brought them downstairs, accidentally dumped them all over myself, cleaned them up, started over, and now I'm using beads for the bottom of this pot. This one's not one of my wedding ones, this one's different, so I'm just gonna separate the triad and then bury them with the warm soil. Get that one to stand up. There, something a little different. Look, the triad. Alrighty, that'll be in the middle, and then the last pot. And here we are, guys. We finally done it. We have made it somewhere. We are learning about drainage and how to make drainage when there is none. Oh my gosh, this Facebook group that I'm a part of, so many people. How do I prevent my succulents from drowning? And people are like, well, drainage is super important. Well, how do I do that? It's just like, oh man. You put something in between the bottom of the pot and your plants in the soil. What should I put? What do I use? I don't know, Jimmy. I don't know. Just trying to look at my succulents and see what's small enough to fit. And ultimately, also what's still alive since the winter has passed. That's an empty pot. I don't need that up there. I need to be able to see what I'm looking at. Man, I have so many succulents. I even have propagations down there, but they're part of a next video, and I don't want to pull them out yet and get y'all excited. So we're going to use babies. And they're going to be at the bottom, so they'll be still nice and safe. I'll put them together, but I'll face the roots opposite directions. And again, gonna water them. Gonna get my soil down, and then there they are, the two babies, the twins. Alrighty, and that is that. That is my stand of succulent. Me for a second, but now we're gonna look and do a little review. And then there they are. So all of these pots right here, all 9, have drainage. Using specifically rocks, and then succulent palm soil. Don't forget it. Palm cactus citrus planting mix. So it's specifically made for succulents. And that is where we are. And like I said, we watered them, but just enough. And that'll be that. And this is a PSA of why rocks rock. And tune in next time to get a little overview on how to propagate succulents. If you've made it to the end of the video, I'll give you a little hint, but propagation is usually using the leaf to produce a baby. So, until that video, peace out, suckers.